All right, so last fly I'm going to do today is we call it the Jimmer Beetle. This fly is kind of special to me because it was a variation on a few different bugs. I always went through trying different beetle patterns. Beetles are one of those things. There's more styles of beetles than any other terrestrial in the world. Different shapes, different sizes. It's amazing to me as I float down a river that I've guided for 17 years. You look on a bush and you see a totally different beetle. So for me, it was all about shape, silhouette again. I did also notice that a lot of them had some sort of sheen to them, a natural sheen, even if it was a brown, it was a little bit shiny. A few years back, I ran into this material called loco foam. One of the more consistent places I found it is literally in Cabela's catalog. They have it in their fly tying catalog. I've seen it on a number of websites and whatnot. Sometimes it's hard to find around town. I've also seen it.
Is it? You get your finger over this. Is that an L? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, loco foam. So it's a Metz product. I've also seen Orvis make one too that they call like crazy foam. It just has that laminate sheen to it. So I prefer the olive, which is kind of black foam with the green sheen to it. Another one I use is called the oil slick. Oil slick, you can see it's just real shiny, but it's black foam. And then I also tie it in a bronze. They have black with a bronze sheen to it. Interesting thing about this fly, the very first time I fished this thing, I had kind of gone through a day on the C-section and tried a few different bugs and had limited success. And it was one of those days where I don't think anything was necessarily on fire, and you just try to flip through and keep things rolling. And we're floating down, 3 guides, and I was in the back of the boat sitting down, and up against a cliff wall I see a small rise. And I tell the guy in front, go ahead and cast that's your fish. And he had it kind of wrapped around his feet, and he says, I'm tangled, that was a dink anyway. And I threw it up against that cliff, and it rolled down about 10 feet, and I saw just the littlest rise. And I set the hook on it, and I about fell out of my seat because I'm sitting down with my feet up on the gunnel, which is not your premium fishing position. And starts fighting, and I feel it bog down pretty heavy. And the rower says, "Do you have a nice one on?" And I said, "Well, I think it's a decent fish, but I think I have it foul hooked," just by how it was fighting. Well, apparently those words in order caused a 29-inch brown trout to go airborne about 6 times. So I ended up landing the nicest brown trout I ever have on this particular fly the very first day I fished it, which at that point you got confidence. I'm sold. Yes. Yes. But again, it works well. The other time this fly works well is if you see a lot of black flies, like house flies, because they have that natural sheen to them. And this, you'll notice on this one, it just kind of has a little different silhouette to it. So this is the Jimmer Beetle. So I start out with the size 12 hook, a little bit smaller. I tie it right back about to the barb of the hook. I then take that piece of foam that I gave you guys with a little bit of green sheen to it, and I face it upwards because I'm going to eventually pull this over so you get the green on the underbelly. Okay. I started in the back, and I only do about an eighth of an inch, and kind of tie it down. Then I try to wrap over that foam. Secure it in there. And it's okay if you get that little knob in it, and I actually like to thicken up the body because this is almost going to be like a vein underneath. It stands out a little bit. I'm using a 6/0. You could use a 3/0 on this one too, or a 210 denier. That'll help build up that body a little bit if you have the thicker thread. Okay, so you'll notice one thing on this fly is there's a lot of exposed hook. And that's just kind of how it ends up. So first thing I'll do is I have that on there, then I wrap this thread forward almost to the same position that I did the cicada head. It's the same exact head as we did on the cicada. I'm pulling it forward, loose wrap, a little tighter, a little tighter, a little tighter. Then you get that nice green sheen to the belly of it.
It's nice and rounded too.
Yep, nice round shape to it. Okay, the next one on this one, this is when I'm using a black rubber leg, round rubber leg. Just a single section, like that. First thing that we're doing is we're actually knotting the leg to get that kind of grasshopper kicking leg to it. Just a simple overhand knot. You want to pull it fairly tight, and that'll get that L shape kicking to it. Again, always okay to go a little bit long. You can trim those down. I'll do that knot that I just tied and I put it right on the end of the hook right there. Right where you see the end of the foam. Couple loose wraps, couple tight wraps. And you see it kicks off to the side. Now if you don't glue it, you could always shorten it up just by literally stretching that foam and kind of, or that rubber leg and kind of pulling it towards you. Doing the same on the other side, just a simple knot. And I usually pin the other one that I tied down to the body and try to match them up, just so you get the same length on them. Again, you could always kind of pull them, slide them back and forth before you glue it. That'll get you similar lengths on the... Now if you find that your rubber leg wants to, the kicker leg wants to kick up, you can literally just spin that, twist it, and pull it back and forth until you get it to sit where you want it to. Okay, the next move on this fly is just like the cicada. I'll pin the legs back and I'll fold over that head so it's the same length as the eye of the hook. Couple loose wraps, couple tight wraps, and I leave that piece long until I'm almost done with it. The next thing on this fly, and kind of unique to this particular bug, is I actually put an antenna on there. The antenna, I'm just taking two pieces of round rubber leg, putting them together, getting them a little bit wet so they want to stay together, and I place it right in the middle of that head. Follow the same wrap pattern as you did for the head. And then once they're on there, you can actually splay them apart a little bit. So you get kind of that rubber leg look. And you want to trim them down. Still want it, you know, I'd say a little bit longer than the actual legs out the side. It's all about silhouette, just a little bit different. Notice on this bug so far I put no super glue on it. I do all the super gluing on this one at the end. I'm then taking the indicator, just like the cicada, a little bit narrower than the thick part of the green foam, and I place it right over the top of where those antennae are. Loose wrap, a little tighter, a little tighter. Now on this particular bug, you can actually get away with a little bit bigger indicator off the back. And I usually try to taper it. Square shapes are something that I think fish notice. So anytime you can round it out or point it out, it's probably a better move. Okay. Now the last move on this one, this is what's kind of unique to this one, is I have that foam hanging out the back. What I try to do is I pin it down and I just give it a nice sharp cut like that. Do the same on the opposite side. That's probably a little long still. But what I want the point of that point to hit is right down where the hook meets the other piece of foam. So see that? You want it to fold right down into there. And this is when you start super gluing it. Put a little bit of glue, you pull it up, put a little bit of glue on that middle part, push it down. And you get that beetle shape. I've also done where I've ran some Antron between those two layers and hung it out maybe a 1/4 inch. If you look at a flying beetle, a lot of them extend their wings and then pull them back in. And so that Antron looks more like the wing case coming back in. And again, I just kind of flip it over just like the cicada. I'll pull that head back, a couple simple wraps. Tie it off. Trim the legs. And that's pretty much it. You could always put a little bit of glue on the underside just to keep it all together. Here, my Beetle. The nice thing about that one is it is all foam. So it's all foam, so there's not really much that's going to sink it. It's a high riding fly too.